One of the hardest parts of being a work from home entrepreneur is setting your own schedule and determining your own to-do list, especially if you're like me and you struggle with discipline. See, I used to walk into my office in the morning and ask myself, what do I feel like doing today? Which often meant that the necessary but unfun parts of my job, like expense reporting, went undone until I absolutely had to do them, which was usually 3 days before my tax person and I were due to meet, and I found myself sorting through hundreds of receipts. Because if you don't start your day off with a plan, you often don't get significant work done. So today we're going over an ideal 8-hour workday for work from home entrepreneurs. This is Bite-Sized Business, where we're helping entrepreneurs become the hero of their own creative small business. I'm your host, Abby Grace. I'm an international photographer who also loves educating for creative small business owners. So here on Bite-Sized Business, we do a lot of strategy for creative small business owners, as well as tips and tricks for growing photographers. So if that sounds like your brain of strawberry jam, make sure you guys hit subscribe. I got 7 tips for you guys today to help craft the ideal 8-hour workday so that you can do your best work at work and live fully in the other 128 hours that come outside of a 40-hour work week. Tip number 1, utilize block scheduling. You may have heard the term block scheduling thrown around, but if you're not familiar with what it means, essentially block scheduling is designating certain chunks of time in the week to doing particular tasks, usually at the same time each week. So rather than walking into your office on any given day and asking yourself what I feel like doing, you know that you have certain tasks that need to get done that day. For example, maybe Thursday morning is your admin chunk of time. And so on Thursday mornings, you know that you're going to be tracking expenses, logging mileage, ordering office supplies, that kind of thing. And the great thing about block scheduling is that it allows you to not feel like you need to be doing admin tasks every other day of the week. On Monday, you're like, oh gosh, I need to order that supply. No problem. I'm going to do that on Thursday. It clears your mind to be able to focus deeply on other tasks in your business without feeling distracted by everything that a small business owner has to do throughout the week. You're no longer trying to accomplish 6 to 10 different types of tasks in one day, because otherwise, without block scheduling, what my schedule used to look like was I might wake up and do a little bit of marketing, then I would answer some emails, then maybe I'd order some products, then I might switch over to editing, then I'd answer more emails, then I would reach out to vendors. I was trying to do 6 to 10 different tasks in one day, which meant I wasn't really able to focus fully on any of them because my mind was constantly jumping to the next thing. See, with block scheduling, what that allows me to do is do really good, deep work on one particular subject with the freedom of knowing that anything else that occurs to me while I'm in that deep work block can be pushed off to another day because I already have a chunk of time designated to whatever that task might be later on in the week. Number 2, write out your top 3. This is the first thing I do when I get into the office in the morning. So I take a look at my block schedule, figure out what the overall themes are for the day. Maybe it's administrative, maybe it's editing, maybe it's teaching, writing a YouTube outline. And then based on those overall themes, I figure out what my top 3 must accomplish tasks are for the day. I then list those tasks at the top of my agenda for the day. What doing that does is it helps keep me focused when something urgent but not necessarily important comes along. 3, stop keeping email open all day. I know this one is hard because checking your email feels good, right? It feels good when you get a new inquiry from a potential client. But the problem with keeping email open all the time is that it is a constant distraction, especially if you're in the midst of doing really good work. In a 2007 study, a researcher at Loughborough University found that it takes an average of 64 seconds to recover your train of thought after interruption by email. So people who check their email every 5 minutes waste 8.5 hours a week figuring out what they were doing moments before. Obviously, I'm not telling you to quit email because having access to an inbox is an essential part for most small business owners. But what I am saying is that if you're the kind of person who constantly keeps an email window open in your browser all day, that you have to stop doing that. Instead, choose 1 to 2 times per day that you're going to be fully present in your inbox, checking and responding to emails, and then at all other times during the day, close out of your inbox. 4, plan out your daily schedule. When you get into the office in the morning, after you figured out your top 3, but before you get into work or email or social media, go ahead and figure out what your daily schedule is going to look like. Start by filling in any time-specific tasks like meetings or picking your kids up from school. And from there, take the rest of the tasks that have to be accomplished throughout the day and start assigning those to certain chunks of time. In the same way that Dave Ramsey suggests with your budget in giving every dollar a job, with your schedule, we want to give every chunk of time a job, because what that does is helps to keep the time from slipping away. For example, I check my email for half an hour at the beginning of the day and then right again before I check out for the day. And so what that does is helps prevent me from starting my day with email, not keeping track of my time, and 2 hours later looking up at the clock and realizing I am still in my inbox. So I give myself a hard deadline of 30 minutes because it helps me get in, get the work done that needs to happen, and then get out and on to the other tasks that have to be accomplished throughout the day. If your schedule gets off kilter because maybe a meeting ran long or a task took longer than you thought it was going to, don't freak out. Just go back to the schedule that you crafted and update it. Cross out what you had before and then refill in with whatever the newly updated schedule is going to look like. What that'll help you do is, again, stay on task and helps to train your brain to respect the boundaries around the time that you formulated for your daily itinerary. 5, make sure you stop for lunch. Because let's be honest, nobody does their best work when they're hangry. 6, have a hard stop on your workday. This helps keep you from slipping into what I call accidental work mode. You know, like when your spouse is done with work and you feel like you probably should be done too, but there are a couple things on your to-do list that didn't get done, so you say, no big deal, just take my laptop up to the couch while we're binge watching Parks and Rec, and 3 hours later, you're still checking email. So having a hard stop on your workday, what it does is it forces you to reckon with the fact that your time is finite. See, I have this really unfortunate habit of pretending like time is a renewable resource, but it's not. And when I act like time is a renewable resource, I don't have any urgency on any of the tasks that are on my itinerary. Whereas when I've told myself you absolutely cannot work past 5:30, it means that emails that need to get answered that day get answered earlier, and tasks that need to get finished that day end up getting finished by 5:30 p.m. So give yourself a hard deadline and stop pretending like time is a renewable resource. 7, teach your brain to respect the hard stop by having a shutdown routine at the end of your day. The concept of a shutdown routine is one that I got from Newport in his book, Deep Work. Not only does it act as a trigger for your brain, though, what a shutdown routine also does is helps to bring closure to the end of your workday. Prior to using a shutdown routine, the end of my workday usually looked a little something like, it's 5:30 p.m., I'm hungry and I'm tired of working, ergo, who says ergo? Ergo, I'm finished with my workday and I'm leaving my office. But the problem with that method was that I often left unfinished items on my to-do list. Maybe I didn't check my calendar for the next couple of days and realized that I've got an obligation the next morning, whether personal or professional. So it never felt like I had closure to the end of my workday. The shutdown routine, though, it helps me finish up any loose ends that were created throughout the day. It helps me push anything forward that was on my to-do list that maybe I didn't get accomplished that day. Helps me be more aware of what's coming in the next few days. And then when I finally do leave my office, I feel really good about the work that I accomplished, even if I didn't finish everything that I set out to do on my to-do list that day. To give you guys an idea, let's take a look at my shutdown list. First, I check my email about 30 minutes before closing time. When is closing time? It's my hard stop time that I've predetermined at the beginning of the day. Number 2, I go ahead and run through my daily to-dos that I've listed out on my agenda, and then I assess where each item is. If I finished something, I cross it off. If I haven't finished it, that leads me to number 3, which is to transfer any unfinished items to an appropriate day or to a Google task list. So for example, if I have an unfinished administrative item that can wait until my next admin block, I'll go ahead and transfer it to the following Thursday. If it's an important but not urgent item that doesn't necessarily need to be assigned to a particular calendar date, but just in general needs to be accomplished, like updating my portfolio, I will put that into my Google overall task list with important but not urgent task items. Number 4, I'll back up any new files or edits on my backup hard drive. Number 5, I check my calendar for the next few days just to make sure I don't have anything super early the next morning, and that if I do have something super early the next morning, I am up and in my office early enough to prepare before my meeting. Number 6, I tidy up my office because I found that a cluttered office means I have a cluttered state of mind, so I want to make sure that my workspace is clean before I walk in the next morning. And then number 7, as Cal Newport suggests in his book Deep Work, having a cue word to trigger your brain to realize it's time to stop working, and mine is mischief managed. That's all I've got for you guys today, but before you go, I have a question for you. What would your end of day cue word be? Go ahead and leave that in the comments. And then as every YouTuber ever will ask you, if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit like and then definitely subscribe because there's a lot more goodness where this came from. We'll catch you guys next time on Bite Size Business.